I used to think the worst thing that could happen to a bride on her wedding day was cold feet, or a vendor canceling at the last minute, or maybe a dress malfunction that ruins all the pictures. But those are the kind of problems people laugh about years later, the kind of disasters that become funny family stories. What happened to me wasn't funny. My wedding wasn't just ruined, it was canceled. Publicly. Brutally. And the worst part is, I didn't even know what I'd supposedly done. I still remember the silence in that church. The way the air itself seemed to collapse in on me when the priest closed his book and stepped back, clearing his throat. The whispers spreading like fire through the pews. My fiancé's face, pale, tight, eyes full of something I'd never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, but disgust. And then his words, sharp enough to cut the air in half. This wedding is not happening. Not after what I found out. Everyone gasped. My mother's hands went to her mouth, my bridesmaids froze, and my stomach dropped so fast I thought I might pass out right there. But let me back up. Because weddings don't fall apart in one moment. They unravel slowly, thread by thread, until the whole thing snaps. And if I want you to understand, I have to start a few weeks before. It was late spring, the kind of season where everything smells like flowers and possibility. I'd been engaged to Daniel for 11 months, and our wedding was set for June. We'd spent months planning every detail, the church, the reception hall, the catering, even the playlist for the after party. Daniel and I had met in college. He was quiet, serious, the kind of man who thought before he spoke. People used to joke he was old-fashioned, but I liked that about him. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't reckless. He was steady, a rock. Exactly what I thought I needed. My bridesmaids were my best friends from childhood. Maya, who I'd known since kindergarten, and Ella, who had been like a sister to me since middle school. Daniel's groomsmen were his two closest friends, Adam and Paul. And then there was my actual sister, Leah, who had agreed to be maid of honor despite our complicated history. Complicated is putting it lightly. Leah and I had always been opposites. I was the good daughter, the one who followed rules, got decent grades, never made waves. Leah was wild. She chased thrill after thrill, left a trail of broken relationships behind her, and had a knack for finding trouble like a moth to flame. We weren't enemies exactly, but I wouldn't say we were close. Growing up, she'd always rolled her eyes at me, accused me of being boring, predictable, a little too perfect. And I'd accused her of being reckless, selfish, irresponsible. So when Daniel and I got engaged, I was surprised when Leah offered to help. She threw herself into maid of honor duties, planning the bachelorette, offering to handle the flowers, even staying up late with me to design table seating charts. For the first time in years, it felt like maybe we were finally building a real bond. That was mistake number one, letting my guard down. A week before the wedding, Daniel started acting different. At first it was subtle, shorter text replies. Coming home later than usual from work, brushing me off when I asked if something was wrong. Just stress, he said once when I pressed him. A wedding's a big deal, you know? I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Because I was stressed too. My dress had been delayed in alterations, my mom kept changing the guest list, and Leah, God bless her, kept suggesting sexy bachelorette ideas that made me want to crawl into the floor. But 2 nights before the wedding, Daniel didn't come home at all. I sat on our couch in my sweatpants, watching the clock tick past midnight. Then 1 a.m., then 2. His phone went straight to voicemail. My mind raced through possibilities. Accident, emergency, maybe even cold feet. He stumbled in at 7 in the morning, smelling faintly of whiskey. "Where were you?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "Out," he said flatly, like that was an answer. "Out where?" "It's 2 days before our wedding, Daniel. I was worried sick." "I don't want to talk about it." Something inside me cracked a little, because this wasn't Daniel. He wasn't the kind of man who disappeared without explanation. He wasn't the kind of man who left me guessing. Unless he'd found out something. Something he hadn't told me yet. That night, I lay awake, replaying every detail of the last few weeks. Had I said something wrong? Had I done something without realizing? My mind wouldn't stop racing. The next day, the day before the wedding, I went to Leah's house. She was still in her pajamas, scrolling on her phone, sipping iced coffee like she had no worries in the world. "You're up early," she teased. "Shouldn't you be getting your beauty sleep before the big day?" I ignored her joke. "Leah, has Daniel said anything to you?" She raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Like, if something's wrong, if he's upset about something, he's been acting weird." Leah shrugged, but her lips curled into the faintest smile. "Maybe he's realizing marriage is a big step. Maybe he's scared." "That's not him. He doesn't get scared." Her eyes lingered on me a little too long, like she was debating whether to say something. "Maybe you don't know him as well as you think." My stomach twisted. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," she said lightly, turning back to her phone. "Don't stress. Tomorrow's your big day." But I was stressed. Because Leah's smile hadn't been careless. It had been knowing. Like she was holding on to a secret, and she was. The morning of the wedding, I woke up at dawn. My dress hung in its protective bag, the veil draped across a chair. My mom was already bustling in the kitchen, humming to herself, trying to distract from her own nerves. I should have felt excited. I should have felt like the happiest bride alive. Instead, I felt like a prisoner walking toward a trial. At the church, everything looked perfect. Flowers lined the aisle, candles flickered, and guests filled the pews. My dad held my arm, whispering how proud he was. And then, as I stood at the altar, looking at Daniel, it happened. The pause, the whispers, the words that shattered everything. This wedding is not happening, not after what I found out. My heart slammed against my ribs. What are you talking about? I whispered. Daniel's face hardened. Don't play dumb. Daniel, I don't... But he cut me off. I know about you. And Leah. The church erupted in gasps. Leah, my sister, my maid of honor. I froze, my brain struggling to process. What about Leah? What could he possibly mean? But before I could speak, he turned and walked out, leaving me standing there in my wedding dress, surrounded by 100 people staring at me like I was some kind of criminal. And that was how my wedding ended. Without vows, without rings, without answers. That night, sitting on the floor of my childhood bedroom in my parents' house, still half in my ruined dress, I kept hearing his words echo over and over. I know about you, and Leah. But I didn't know what he knew. And I didn't know yet that the truth would be worse than anything I could have imagined. The silence after Daniel's words didn't just fill the church. It followed me home, wrapped itself around my chest, and refused to let go. I sat in my parents' living room, my veil tossed on the coffee table, my makeup streaked down my cheeks. My mom kept pacing, muttering, "This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense." Like repeating it would somehow undo what had happened. My dad sat in his chair like a stone statue, jaw clenched, refusing to look at me. And Leah, my sister, my maid of honor, sat curled up on the couch, scrolling on her phone like she hadn't just been the reason my entire life imploded. Finally, I snapped. "What the hell did you do?" My voice cracked, louder than I meant. Leah looked up, eyes wide with fake innocence. "Me? I didn't do anything. Daniel said he knew about me and you. What does that mean?" Her lips curled into that smirk I'd always hated. "Maybe you should ask Daniel." "I'm asking you." She shrugged, like my life wasn't lying in pieces around me. "I don't know what he thinks he knows. Maybe you did something without realizing." My mom cut in, her voice sharp. "Leah, enough games. What happened?" Leah leaned back, crossing her arms. "Nothing happened. Not my fault if Daniel has trust issues." But there was something in her eyes, a glimmer of satisfaction, a cruel pleasure she couldn't quite hide. She knew something, and she wasn't going to tell me. Not yet. I tried calling Daniel that night. He didn't pick up. I texted him until my thumbs went numb. "Me. Please, just talk to me. Me. Whatever you think you know, it's not true. Me. I don't even know what you're accusing me of. Me. Please, Daniel." No response. At 3 a.m., I finally gave up and cried myself to sleep in my childhood bed. The next day, gossip exploded like wildfire. My bridesmaids messaged me in shock. Family friends sent awkward thinking of you texts. And even my boss at work called, gently suggesting I take some time. But the worst was social media. Someone from the church had filmed the moment Daniel walked out, and the video had already made its way online. Hundreds of comments, some sympathetic, most cruel. Imagine getting dumped at the altar, must have done something bad. Poor guy, dodged a bullet. What's the story with her and the sister? I deleted my accounts by noon, but the damage was already done. 3 days passed before I heard from Daniel. He showed up at my parents' house unannounced. I opened the door, and there he was. Tired, unshaven, but still the man I loved. "Daniel," I breathed. He didn't hug me, didn't even step inside. He just stood there, holding his phone in his hand like it was a weapon. "I saw the messages," he said. My heart dropped. "What messages?" He shoved the phone at me. And there they were, screenshots. Dozens of them. Text conversations between my number and Leah's. Only they weren't my texts. At least, I didn't think they were, because they looked real. My number, my contact photo, my tone of voice. Messages that sounded like me, but they weren't me. The texts were flirtatious, teasing, dripping with innuendo. Things like, "Sometimes I think about what it would be like if it was you instead of him. No one has to know, just once. I dreamt about you last night, and it didn't feel wrong. I felt like I'd been punched. These aren't mine. I didn't send these." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Don't lie to me." "I'm not lying. I swear to God, Daniel, I never wrote this." He scrolled further, showing me a picture. A blurred, half-lit photo of me in lingerie, sent from my number to Leah's. I staggered back. No, I never. "Daniel, you know me. You know I'd never." But even as I spoke, my stomach twisted. Because I had taken that picture, months ago, for Daniel, in our bedroom. And now, here it was, in a thread with my sister. I couldn't breathe. My head spun as I tried to process. "Daniel, someone faked this. Leah must have faked this." He shook his head. "I thought that too at first. But then I compared the timestamps. They line up with nights you said you were working late. And the way you write, it's the same. The same typos, the same shorthand. No, she copied me. She must have spoofed my number or hacked my phone or..." Daniel's face hardened. "Do you hear yourself?" Leah might be many things, but she's not some criminal mastermind. You expect me to believe she pulled off some elaborate scheme just to make you look bad? Yes, I shouted, tears blurring my vision. Because she hates me, Daniel. She always has. His silence was worse than yelling. Finally, he whispered, I can't marry someone I can't trust. And then he walked away. That night, I confronted Leah. She was sitting in her car outside her apartment, smoking like she always did when she was smug about something. You did this, I hissed. She blew out smoke, eyes glittering. Did what? You faked those messages. You sent those pictures. You ruined everything. Leah smirked. If Daniel dumped you, that's between you and him. Don't drag me into it. My hands shook. Why? Why would you do this to me? Her smirk widened into something cruel. Because sis, for once in our lives, it's not about you. She flicked her cigarette out the window and drove away, leaving me trembling in the dark. The following weeks blurred together. My parents tried to keep me inside, away from gossip. I avoided everyone, convinced the world saw me as some cheating bride who'd lusted after her own sister. But the truth was still gnawing at me. I hadn't done it. I hadn't sent those messages. I hadn't betrayed Daniel, which meant someone else had. And the deeper I dug, the more I realized Leah hadn't just ruined my wedding. She had orchestrated something much darker, something that was only just beginning. It's strange how silence can become its own kind of torture. Weeks passed, and Daniel still hadn't spoken to me again. My parents tiptoed around me like I was fragile glass, while Leah carried on with her life as though she hadn't just destroyed mine. I couldn't stand it anymore. I started digging. At first, it was small things, checking my phone records, seeing if I could prove the messages weren't mine. But everything matched. My number, my device ID. It was like someone had cloned my phone. The more I searched, the more impossible it felt, until I remembered something. Leah had borrowed my phone once. It was months ago, just for a few minutes, when hers had supposedly died. She'd asked to call Mom, but she'd stepped outside with it. Back then, I hadn't thought anything of it. But now, looking back, I knew. She hadn't just borrowed my phone. She'd done something to it, installed something, copied something. I felt sick. I went to Daniel's apartment, desperate to explain. But he wouldn't let me inside. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes filled with exhaustion and betrayal. Daniel, please, just hear me out. Leah set me up. She had my phone. Stop, he said sharply. I don't want to hear excuses. They're not excuses. I didn't send those messages. I didn't send that photo. You know me. I thought I did, he interrupted. His voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw pain instead of anger. But you have no idea what it's like. Seeing those words, those pictures, imagining my fiancée with her own sister. I can't get it out of my head. Tears welled in my eyes. Because it's not true. She did this. She's always hated me, and now she's destroying me. Daniel shook his head. I can't live in a relationship where I'm questioning everything. Where every time you touch me, I wonder if you've touched someone else. I can't. The door closed. Just like that. That night, I drank for the first time in months. Glass after glass of wine until my head was swimming. And that's when Leah showed up. She let herself into my room without knocking, like she always did. She leaned against the doorway, smirking. You look like hell, she said. I glared at her. Why are you here? To see how my big sister is doing, of course. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. I slammed my glass down. Why are you doing this to me? What did I ever do to you? She walked closer, her perfume sharp and intoxicating. She crouched beside me, her face inches from mine. That's the problem, isn't it? You never did anything. You never even noticed me. Not really. Everyone loved you. Everyone wanted you. And me? She laughed bitterly. I was always just your shadow. Her hand brushed my arm. I flinched, but she didn't pull back. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You know what's funny? Daniel wasn't even the point. He was just the spark. What I wanted, what I've always wanted, was you. My blood turned to ice. What? She smiled wickedly. You heard me. All those texts, they weren't just lies. They were fantasies. Mine. Every word, every picture, every thought. I made them real because you never would. I pushed her away, stumbling to my feet. You're sick. She stood too, unfazed. Maybe, but don't pretend you never felt it too. The way you looked at me sometimes, the way you blushed when people joked about us being too close. Don't tell me I imagined it all. I never... My voice broke. You're my sister. She stepped closer again, her eyes blazing. Exactly. And that makes it even better, doesn't it? I slapped her, hard. The sound echoed through the room. For a moment, she just stared at me, cheek red, breathing heavy. Then she smiled. Now there's the fire I wanted to see. She left without another word, leaving me shaking and sobbing in the wreckage of my life. I thought it was over, that she'd had her moment and would finally leave me alone. But the next morning, I woke up to another nightmare. My phone buzzed nonstop. Dozens of notifications. Friends, coworkers, even strangers messaging me. Leah had posted the screenshots online. All of them. The fake texts, the photo, and she'd added her own caption. Sometimes the people you admire most are hiding the darkest secrets. My own sister tried to seduce me while engaged. The post went viral within hours. I was branded a pervert, a liar, a predator. My career was at risk. My reputation was destroyed. And Daniel sent me one final message. I don't know who you are anymore. Don't contact me again. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking of how quickly my life had unraveled. And then I remembered something Leah didn't know I had. Years ago, when we were still teenagers, she'd written in journals. She used to hide them under her mattress, filled with her twisted fantasies and jealous rants. I hadn't thought about them in years, until now. If I could find them, maybe I could prove she'd been obsessed with me all along. Maybe I could finally clear my name. The next morning, I woke up with one thought pounding through my head. The journals. If Leah still had them, or if I could find them in her old things, they could prove everything. Her obsession, her lies, her sickness. But I didn't even know if they existed anymore. I went to my parents' house. They were in the kitchen, whispering about me when I walked in. They froze, guilty expressions painted across their faces. "Where's Leah's old stuff?" I asked flatly. My mom fidgeted. "Honey, why?" "Because I need it, now." "Where is it?" My dad sighed. "Most of it's in the attic." I didn't wait for permission. I grabbed the ladder, climbed up, and started digging through dusty boxes. Childhood toys, school papers, old clothes, and then finally, a shoebox with a cracked lid. Inside were spiral notebooks. Journals. My hands shook as I flipped one open. The handwriting was Leah's. Slanted, messy, emotional. And the words, "Sometimes I think she looks at me the way I look at her. God, I wish it wasn't wrong, but it feels so right. Daniel doesn't deserve her. Nobody does. She belongs to me." Another entry. "She hugged me today. Just a normal hug. But I swear she lingered. Did she feel it too? If I could just make her see..." Another. "I'm going to ruin that wedding. I don't care what it takes. If she won't choose me, then she won't have anyone." My chest tightened. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. Proof. Real proof. I stuffed the notebooks into my bag, heart racing with the weight of what I now held. That night, I called Daniel. He didn't answer at first. But after the 10th try, his tired voice came through. "What do you want? Please, just meet me. One last time. If after this, you still want me gone, I'll never call you again." There was a long pause. Then, "Where?" We met at a small cafe, the kind that stayed open late and smelled like burnt coffee. He looked thinner, shadows under his eyes. I slid the journals across the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Leah's. Read it?" He flipped it open. His eyes moved across the words. His jaw tightened. His hands trembled. He read one entry, then another, then another. Finally, he looked at me. For the first time in weeks, his eyes softened. "My God," he whispered. "She set you up." Relief and rage collided in my chest. Yes, she did. She wanted you gone. She wanted me to herself. He rubbed his temples, whispering curses under his breath. "I should have believed you. I'm so sorry." But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because Leah wasn't done either. The next day, she showed up at my apartment. She barged inside, her eyes wild. "You went through my things," she hissed. I stood tall, clutching the journals. "You ruined my life. These prove everything." Her face twisted. "You think anyone will care? You think Daniel will come running back after everything? You're tainted. No matter what you show them, everyone will still believe the story I told." My blood boiled. "You're sick, Leah. You need help." She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "No, I need you. And if I can't have you, then no one will." Her hand darted into her bag. For a terrifying second, I thought she had a knife. But instead, she pulled out a lighter. Before I could react, she flicked it on and held it near the journals. "Stop," I screamed, but her eyes were full of madness. "Let's see how much your precious proof matters when it's ashes." I lunged, knocking the lighter from her hand. We struggled, shoving, clawing. She was stronger than I expected, driven by rage and obsession. In the chaos, the lighter skidded under the couch. She grabbed my wrist, nails digging into my skin. "Why couldn't you just love me back?" she cried, tears streaking her face. "Because you're my sister," I shouted. Her grip loosened, just enough for me to shove her away. She stumbled, hit the wall, and slid to the floor, sobbing. I grabbed the journals, clutching them to my chest. "This ends now, Leah. I'm done letting you destroy me." The police came that night, with the journals as evidence, with Daniel's testimony, with everything she'd already posted online. They had enough to charge her. Stalking, defamation, harassment. As they led her away, she looked at me one last time. "I'll always be with you," she whispered, "even when no one else is." Her words chilled me to the bone. Weeks later, Daniel and I talked again. He wanted to try to rebuild what had been broken, but I wasn't sure. The damage Leah left wasn't just between us. It was inside me. Every time I looked in the mirror, I heard her voice. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Leah had wanted me, desired me, and she'd burned my world down because of it. My wedding was canceled because of something I didn't even know I did. Because my sister had twisted love into obsession, lust into poison. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder, was she right? Did some part of me ever feel it too? That thought is the worst wound of all.